Hi everybody, it's Amanda from LHL, and today I want to discuss a little bit about the differences between micro and macro organizing and how and when you would transition between them. Not everybody is going to be in a situation where they are forced to do one or the other. You can go as micro as you want to, or as macro as you want to. But I want to describe some of the reasons why we might go more micro or more macro in different situations, and when those trigger points would be. All right, so I'm using 3 examples here. We have a dorm room, a household, and a business, and those are the 3 examples. So in a dorm room, you don't have a lot of household maintenance items. You don't have even a lot of paper. You might have books, you might have some notes for each semester you're on, but you really don't have years and years of, not decades worth of paper. You haven't been doing your taxes very long. You shouldn't need a filing cabinet, right? So to start with paper, just going to use the example I've got here. So this is a very narrow file organizer, and this is the type of thing that you can get away with in school. So it might be notebooks that you have in here. For instance, I've got graphing paper notebook. I have a clipboard that won't fit sideways. I'm very disappointed by that, but. And then there's this type of filing system. And I actually had in college a clear closable container about this size, and then in the container top there were compartments for paper clips, or you couldn't fit a stapler, but you could put pens and markers and highlighters and things like that in there. So that's what I had in college. And as the years went on, in apartment living, I had 2 filing drawers just about this size of paper that were household papers, including taxes, some manuals, some warranties, things like that. And other than that, I was gaining notebooks, lots of notebooks and books and study material from college that I just never pared back down. In a business, we would have multiple filing cabinets, and now we need to cut down into smaller categories so that people can find things faster. So in a dorm, everything could literally be put in a box. You wouldn't even have to divide this out. This one's a little more messy. We can use this one as an example. Just trying to make sure there's nothing personal in here, which there is. So we're going to cover that. So in this case, there are some file folders in here, but there's also just notebooks shoved in. But this wouldn't matter because there's not enough there to be a lot of trouble to dig out what I need, right? So in the dorm situation, we don't have to subcategorize. We don't really even have to label, even though these are labeled. They're just labeled lower. Pulled out the one that wasn't. For instance, this one says health and longevity on a sticky note on the side of the folder. I've got this turned around so you can't see my private information, but basically there are some subcategories, but things are just loose in there. No organization, no sub-organization in there. Now for me, at this stage, I'm a little closer to a dorm. I don't have a lot of paper, so I can't show you huge complicated systems. But if you've ever been in a business filing room, they will have things by year, then by company, then by month within company. I mean, it depends on which level they want to go, but essentially so they can archive in huge batches, just take out, 5 years ago or whatever set point they decided, pull those out and archive them. So in a business, these minor categories are very important because if you need to go track down proof that something wasn't paid, that the services were rendered, then you can go find that specific thing without necessarily having to know off the top of your head exactly where it is. The label's going to help them. So another example is tools. So when I went to my dorm over almost 20 years ago, I had this little organizer, and this actually held all my office supplies and all of my sewing supplies for basically fixing buttons, right? And it also held any home improvement. So I had tape in here in the past, but, and I'll show it to you. There's just like There's an open compartment on the top one, and you unsnap it, and then there's sub-compartments. And I've actually had this container that long, but the things in it have changed a little bit. Like I have more sewing thread in here than I used to, and fewer office supplies. So there's some clips and paper clips. And then still sewing stuff here, but my Scotch tape, for instance, is here, and then refill staples are in here. Even though the stapler isn't currently in here, I used to have a small stapler that would be in here. Letter opener and some other things like that. And this kit was plenty fine, and having it all loose in there was not a big deal, even though this does offer some more micro organizing on the bottom. This one is macro. You know, it's got currently, we've got Scotch tape, we've got a roller cutter for fabric, got the seam measure Delima bobber, I've got a quilting pencil, I've also got two X-Acto knives, well an X-Acto knife and a box cutter almost. So my sharps are in here. I also have bobbins for, I don't even have a sewing machine, but when I borrow one, then I can still have my own bobbins. Then I have the magnet and pins, a replacement Scotch tape, and replacement staples as we covered before. And that's what I keep in there now, and it's all loose, jumbled together, and it works fine because I don't have a lot of this type of supplies, and there's not really a better home for them. I only use the Scotch tape for wrapping at Christmas time, basically. Almost just Christmas time. But this is the level at which I could hold a lot of different categories because I didn't have a lot of things in each category. Now we move into household. You know, when I lived in an apartment, I also gained a small hammer just for hanging things, right? This hammer's big enough to do that job, but not so big that it can do much carpentry at all. And then a basic 25-foot measuring, tape measure. Sorry, a 25-foot tape measure. Just for hanging things correctly, getting symmetry, that type of thing. So I gained these two things, and you could keep the tape measure in the case for a little while. The hammer never fit, but that's all I had for apartment living. Then we move into a house. And when I moved into the house, now I have so much more stuff. So I have an open compartment that is, again, let's see if we can do this. These things now live in there. Macro organized. I don't think that's going to show up very well. But I have a small wire cutters and needle nose pliers kind of set. Several odd wrenches. The level, a set of small screwdrivers. I've got a stud finder. And while we're here, we'll just go ahead and put these guys back. Try to keep the tape measure up close where I can get to it easy. Although there's little things in this fishing deal that keep it from closing. And then, so those tools are pretty reasonable, very easy to get, and you don't even have to keep the stuff that I have down below. Well, you kind of need some of it. Okay, we'll go into that. But those are the basic tools for apartment living. We'll go ahead and add these bottom ones because they're relevant. Okay. So I have both my Phillips and my flathead screwdrivers in this compartment. It's a set of 4 each, I think. It might be just 3 each. But they all literally fit there. Now these things I gained purely because I had to do my own home repairs. Then I gained a couple of wrenches. So I have a needle nose. I think these 3 are maybe the ones I started with. Needle nose, an adjustable wrench with a locking mechanism. And then this is just 2 settings, adjustable wrench. And that's all I had. I've gained a couple more wrenches since then. And then now that I have a house, I've got a vinyl siding tool and 3 sizes of chisels, as well as a wire brush for the concrete block downstairs. So, a lot more inventory to manage now, right? So now I'm utilizing these customizable, and this is a tackle box. I utilize this customizable clear but micro category box And you could absolutely go more micro than this, right? Everybody could separate out their Phillips from their flathead. They could hang it, and it'd be very visual, and everything would be in its own place. But for me, this works because I gotta take it and move it to wherever the project site is. And in this tote, this is the stuff you start gathering that you don't think about. It's all of these hanging mechanisms. So I have wires for pictures. I have, this is for specifically a shadow box. Several bolts in here. And then all kinds of hanging mechanisms. So I've got hooks as well as I've got these types of picture frame hooks. Some more sizes of hooks. I've got lots of different kinds of drywall screws. And these adjusters, locking mechanisms for adjustable shelves. I love those shelves. We keep these handy. There's lots of extra though. I could probably tear it down. I also have this type where you can push it through the wall. It does not work well on this wall because it is the whole house. The whole house. It is rock wall. So it has little rocks in there and these don't push through well at all. So I have additional hooks, garage type hooks that I've used for to hold my baritone saxophone. And they had to be narrowed to fit. I lost one in a wall. It broke off because of the tension of trying to compress it. But these are the things that you gain as you do more and more projects. And a couple more tools. Got some strange tools, right? So I do my own wiring, electronics as well as the house. And so I have a ground fault detector set up, as well as some Allen wrenches, some glues, lots of different Allen wrenches, lots of different adhesives. Got a giant rubber band, because who doesn't need that? A mechanism for a lock in a door, which I have more of those downstairs. Some color pins, and an extendable magnet. That always comes in handy. So these are the types of things. I also have a bumper, which is actually for the saxophone, believe it or not. These are the types of things that then, because I had more inventory, I needed a way to manage them. And this is how I chose to manage them, which is a little bit weird. The case used to be lighter, and now it's getting heavier and heavier. But it still holds everything, and it fits in my space well. But if I were a business, now I need a big tool chest. Things would need to be even more divvied out. We couldn't put everything all in one container. Now you'd have to put wrenches in one place, screwdrivers in another drawer, flatheads, then Phillips, go by sizes. You'd have to label things, and it's going to be much more micro organized because that's how you can quickly find things amongst a lot of inventory. When you pare down and you go minimalist, it's a lot easier to just get by with small little containers or broad dumped in categories. Doesn't mean you want to necessarily, but you absolutely can because it doesn't take you very long to find what you have. And then this lovely guy, because we're using customizable sections, we can go, you can see my screwdrivers being all together in one bin is fairly macro, but it's not the same as having just one tool bin where we dumped everything. So it's not the most macro, but it's also not the most micro. It's somewhere in between. Oh. I do wish I had the business examples to show you. We'll see if I can try to insert a photograph of a business filing system versus a photograph of business tools, such as a shop, a machine shop, a auto body shop, that type of thing. They're going to have a very different setup, much more micro organized, because the inventory is huge. So if you have low inventory, definitely go with something smaller. Keep the categories loose. It's going to save you a lot of time in the put away, and it's going to cost you just a little bit more in the digging out. Thanks for sticking with me, and I hope that you find this topic interesting. If you want to see physical examples and pictures, go ahead and click the link below for the blog post, and I'll have some more explanation in there that hopefully you'll find useful. So thank you. Have a good day.